Call the meeting back to order. Do I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, seconded by Vice President Webb. All in favor?
Aye.
We are out of closed session at 6:11 and no reportable action. Okay, at this time, I'll open the floor for public comments. I'll dispense with the reading of the statute, but let the record show that we're opening public comments up now, so if anybody wishes to address the board, please do so. And being as there is none, we will close public comments. Minutes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion is made by Director Stewart, seconded by Vice President Webb. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion is made by Vice President Webb, seconded by Director Stewart. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. Motion carries 5-0. New business. New business 1. Approve the closure of the district office on Fridays effective November 1st, 2019. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager.
Mr. President, this item before us today is currently the staff is on a 410 schedule. All staff are. Where we run into problems is we have in the front office only an issue where one of our office staff is off on Friday. Another person in the front office is off on Tuesday. This is to accommodate a 5-day work week. In doing so, we have to pull from the finance side, the finance assistant to backfill the front office. And what that does is it puts that person behind in their schedule and their daily chores that have to do with reconciliation on a daily basis. And that impacts the finance department's ability to reconcile monthly. And because of that, looking at the traffic that's generated on Fridays, most people in the district feel that, or think that the district is closed on Fridays anyway. Most of the traffic that's generated to the front counter is generated by office staff in sending notices out and letting ratepayers know that their last day to pay before shutoffs are on Friday. And that can easily be adjusted, and the traffic to the front counter on a Friday is very limited. And it's a recommendation that in order to accommodate and to alleviate the problem in the front office and to take the additional workload off of the one individual in the front office, it's recommended that we close on the Friday. The other issue is this all stemmed from a PERB complaint originally. And in that PERB complaint, administrative law judge ruled in favor of the employees and required the district to place them back on a 410 schedule. However, at that time, the district had a full staffing in the front office, and it didn't present that type of a problem. Today, we don't. And it's cheaper for us not to hire another body just to backfill that position and do the closure on Friday.
My question, is it staff's opinion that the impact to the public will be minimal?
Absolutely.
And will the public still be served on Fridays in service calls and that nature?
They will.
Okay.
first. On the average, about how many people do you know guesstimate or give me a rough number come in on Fridays from the bill work?
Approximately 10 to 14 after we take away the required come in and pay your fees. The ones that we call in,
Okay,
about 10 to 14.
but they can still do that online, right? Pick your those bills and
Absolutely.
all that online. Okay. Then, in doing this, now PERB, could you kind of explain, because maybe the audience doesn't know what PERB is as far as, so that's who's PERB. I just want them to kind of know, you said that we generated a PERB charge.
Public Employees Relations Board, it is a board that governs employee-employer relations, and it is kind of the employee-employer relations court.
Court, okay.
It's not a court, but it's a board that takes on these types of charges. And actually, it is administered by an administrative law judge.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? You have a motion?
Hold on. I got a question. Have we looked into part-time help? Because I don't like spending money, but I also don't like people having access or not having access to come in and pay their bill. Not everybody has the capabilities of getting online or the wherewithal to use a smartphone to pay their bill, so maybe that's their Friday off. But then again, like I said, I don't want to spend money and just hire one person to come in for one day to make sure. So have we looked any part-time help? 2 days a week?
I'd have to defer to Liz on the issue.
So the board did authorize us hiring a customer service assistant. But again, looking at costs and with the union environment, it's not as inexpensive to bring on part-time help anymore. We have benefits that we have to pay. That in this case would exceed what it would cost us to pay them to come in for 10 hours in a week. And so we're trying to look at all of our different options and see if we can not spend the money and still meet the needs of the agency.
I think not a final decision, but kind of just, hey, let's test it out over the next 6 months and see if we get, anybody coming in that wants to, I only have Fridays off or whatever the deal is. As long as that we keep it open that sometime in the future we can come back and revisit just to make sure that, everybody has those opportunities. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with the back to
Hey Steve, one other thing I do have, you said that this is because we went to 410 without asking the employees before.
We went to finance.
We actually were at a 410 and then reverted to a 5.8.
Without asking the employees.
Right.
This is before the union, right? Or this is after?
Yes, it was before.
I just want to make sure, we're not going to let a union run the district. They work here, they don't own here. And wait, let me finish the full thought. I just want to make sure when we do things that we're doing it to benefit the community, benefit not the employee, because they do work here. Because everything I keep seeing, and I know if it's something that got changed, that they didn't do it the right way, we try to fix it. But we don't let them tell us what to do to the detriment of the community like they brought up. So I just want to make sure we stay balanced in going after these things, that we do it the right way, so we don't have this again to come up on us down the line. Okay, so this is something that we didn't do the right way, now we're trying to make the proper adjustment to it.
Correct.
We had some questions.
Originally.
John, you were first, and Mrs. Lewis, you were second, and John?
If you could step up so we can hear
Okay.
you, I'll get you on recording. Thank you.
Okay. It's not a major concern, but we do drop off the papers for the substation on Fridays. I'm not sure what time they do it at, but would that be is it going to be locked where we can't drop anything off, or is there a drop-off box that maybe in the middle of the room we'd be able to drop off the papers, or you guys are going to be completely closed to the public?
We can have you drop off the papers in the front and we'll bring them in.
Okay. When you say drop off in the front, do you mean outside, or do you mean outside? Okay. Just so
There's also the night drop box
Right.
where we receive overnight payments.
Is it big enough for the papers?
Yeah, it's just 20 papers.
I think it would handle that.
Yeah, there's a drop box on the side.
Okay.
Mrs. Lewis, you had a comment?
Just a question. I know previous you had the 5-day, and then you went from the 5-day to the 4-day to the 5-day. So, are you saying that it is better for the seniors, for the community? Because a lot of seniors do not use computers to pay their bills online. A lot of seniors depend upon coming in to pay their bill. And the community is going to be made completely aware, because I can understand if I was here, the 4-day would appeal to me, but does it appeal to the community?
Well, what happened was the 5/8 by the PERB board, the administrative law judge required the district to go back to the 4/10 because they didn't meet and confer with the union, and they ruled in favor of the employees and required the district to go back to the 4/10.
So
And that
basically,
created-
when the administrative judge said it, he was going back to the union contract? Is that what, so what we're doing now is per the union contract?
It's not per the contract, it's per a requirement of meeting and conferring with the union. That was not done, and he required us to go back to the 4/10s.
Okay.
And that was his doing. So in order to do that, it created a split shift within our employees in order to cover. And that's what we're trying to fix.
I just know a lot of seniors do not use their computers to pay bills online.
And the seniors still have the 4 days to pay their bills like they normally did during the week. But they can pay it online if they so choose.
I was just going to clarify something for Director Webb, I'm sorry, that the district was closed on Fridays prior, when Steve was here before. The new board came in and they mandated that we stay open on Fridays. And when they did that, they didn't meet and confer with the...
But that's what created the problem,
Right.
that's arbitrarily instituted. Okay. Now, so we're just trying to fix something that we didn't do properly the first time. Yeah.
And let me add one thing. Studies have been done with this type of employment, with this type of a service. And the 10 hours, 4 days a week is so much more productive and so much more financially sound that that's why many organizations have gone to 410.
Do I have a motion on new business 1?
I'll make a motion that we approve the new adjustment to the time schedule.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Vice President Webb, seconded by Director Glennon. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, new business 2, organizational structure. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager. A, B, and C.
The first item is approving the org chart. The organizational chart should have been the management organizational chart. This item pertains only to the management staff. And what it does is it renames several positions and creates one position in the assistant general manager position. We have to amend by resolution, if your board so approves, the organizational reorganization of the management staff, I should say, and to approve the salary schedule as presented. In looking at some of the job descriptions and stuff, what has been created was a couple layers of management in the operational division. And in doing so, what it has done is created basically an overmanagement and non-clear direction of duties. And this renames the positions only. It's not taking away benefits or wages. It is merely description change. It will move Lizette Guerrero into the Assistant General Manager's position. John Houghton will move to the Director of Operations, and Brock will move to the Operations Manager. And they will clearly have their job description changed by this act at such time that there is movement. My retirement, John's retirement, whatever, then one of the positions in the management area will be removed. The numbers of employees that we have in the district right now, we have too many managers to manage the numbers that we have. And what we need to do is clearly define those job duties today, and then eliminate one as the attrition occurs, and to balance that out. Now, if the district grows in personnel in the operations division, the current position that Brock holds or in this proposed change as manager, it may be necessary to maintain that position later on in order to have a good span of control of personnel. But that would only occur with a significant increase in personnel. It's recommended that the board approve the org chart changes and the administrative handbook, and amending and adopting the job descriptions and approving the salary schedule.
Discussion?
Steve, on the new position, Director of Public Works, John Alton, what was his title before?
He was the Assistant General Manager.
So he's going from Assistant General Manager to Director of Public Works,
Correct.
and that's not a demotion?
No pay decrease, no benefit decrease.
How about title?
Title is a title with a job description that you're considering this evening.
Job descriptions are changing more towards tailored to what their duties actually are. I'm just saying, you asked a question, but
Yeah.
just trying to clarify a little bit there.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if I was Assistant General Manager and I went to apply for another company, organization, and on my resume it shows that at one point I was Assistant General Manager, and from that I went to Director of Public Works. That kind of sounds like a demotion, huh?
I have to say that, number one, most of the moves were made in interim because of the loss of another general manager, and in the interim, positions were changed until another general manager could be employed. I believe that's what your board did.
Anyone else have any comments?
I've read the job descriptions, and what I'm seeing is that compared to the old job description, it's basically you're changing titles, but if you read the new job description for the assistant general manager, it's more of an administrative job position. It's a lot more policy and, you know, you just read it, it's more of an administrative position versus a public works position. And it's, well,
So you should focus more on job description than title.
well, it's what they're doing, and benefits aren't changing, nobody's losing any pay.
Might I speak on this? It does pertain to me. I'm fine with Steve's decision.
No, can I make a comment about this here? Sometimes you get stuck on titles, but I think, you know, the people here are very capable. But I think one of the things I see here, a lot of people are doing things in so many different directions, and I hope this kind of clarifies it, because two things I'd like to see as we move forward. We've already talked about the opportunities for people to move into certain things, but other thing there too is that the person that was there just said he was happy with it. I don't think that we should get wrapped up about a title, because I know John's capable. Let him do his job, because that's one of the things. He got stuck doing stuff to benefit the district. I don't think the people realize that a lot of those things there was kind of tough. And I want to tell you, John, I think some of the responsibilities you had commendable, because each time you were in a rough time for us, and you still tall and give them what I appreciate it. And maybe now this will give you the opportunity to get back what you do best. Because I know you couldn't serve the front office master, the admin side, the back side, and the crew needs you. So maybe this will give you the opportunity to get back into the trench where you're the happiest and do what you have to do. But on the flip side of it, I think if the opportunity will present itself and we want to go back there, I don't think, you know, in that administrative realm there, I don't think no one's really going to challenge you. We'll do whatever we can to support you 1,000 times over.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I look at this more as our general manager getting his staff positioned where he feels he needs them so he can best serve the district and get his staff to where they're going to best serve the district. And that's how I'm looking at it. And it's, any other discussion or questions?
Probably being one of the maybe 3 millennials, even though it's a negative term nowadays, millennials in the room. I think a lot of people look at titles, and I think there are probably some people in the world that would rather have a title than more pay, which I understand. But I probably said it and I'll say it again. These are Steve's puzzle pieces, and I'm fine with him putting them where he needs to put them, and he feels that that's the best way to complete his puzzle. I just don't want to add any more pieces to the puzzle. So you can call it what you want. Nobody's taking a hit, in my opinion. It's just a title. If John's fine with it, then I back it. So
I want to say that we have a staff here that's second to none. I am extremely proud of our staff that we have working here from the top down to the bottom. And we have some incredible people working here, and they do an incredible job day in and day out. Okay, so what I would like to do on this here, because item B is a roll call vote, I would like to get a motion on A, B, and C, and then we will take a vote on A, and we will take a vote on C, and then we'll take a roll call vote on B. And then that,
So you want a full motion on all three, then break them out? No? No?
You can motion and then do the roll call on B only.
right, that's what I say, only B gets a roll call, but the other one, you need a voice vote on each one. A and C, and B's roll call. So,
Who's on first?
but can I get a motion for all three of them to go ahead and proceed with the vote?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Director Glennon, second by Vice President Webb, to approve MB2, A, B, and C. As for item A, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Carried. Okay. We got 4 ayes, 1 no. Motion carries 4-1. Item C, approve the salary schedule. Do I have a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion is 4-1. And item B, adopt resolution 2019-2, amending the administrative handbook, adopting and amending job descriptions. Roll call vote.
Vice President Webb?
Yes, aye.
Director Washington?
No.
Director Glennon?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
President Wood?
Yes. Okay, new business 3. Authorize the purchase of a vehicle in the amount not to exceed $37,000. Actually, nope, I gotta go back here. Sorry, got a clarification on this. $32,554.96. Presenter Steve Perez, General Manager.
Yes, this item is to allow me to go ahead and purchase a vehicle for the use for the general manager, and the bottom line, instead of the $37,000, not to exceed $37,000, it's not to exceed $32,554.96, and that includes a trade-in of the other vehicle. And it might be noted that the vehicle that I currently have is not going to be conducive to what a general manager does or should do in the district. I'm off-road. We've got a construction project coming up, and I'm at the water bank occasionally, and it just seems odd to have a vehicle that will be tore up by that kind of wear and tear. And I'm asking your board to approve the $32,554.96 for the purchase of that vehicle. Now, that vehicle, I'm asking the board, if you approve this, to take it from the general fund, and that item for the structuring of the movement of the revenue will be brought back at the next meeting and be on consent if you approve today.
I agree with the general manager's assessment of the fact that even though Toyota is great on gas mileage and economical, it's just not practical for a general manager who is probably spends at least 60% of their time off-road. And his car is just not gonna hold up under those conditions, and for him to be able to do his job, we need to get him a vehicle that he can actually do his job with. And you know, it's a lot is said, you know, that a vehicle is given to a general manager. We don't buy a vehicle for our general manager to go back and forth to home in. We buy a vehicle for our general manager so he can do his job for the district. And we need to give him it's like anybody else, you know, you gotta give him the proper tools so he can do his job most efficiently.
Well, that's true, but also, we keep talking about disaster preparedness and whatnot. If we have an emergency, we have to move emergency supplies from one location to another, go to support another district, and they're gonna do it in the economy card. So I think it makes good sense, with whatever the other vehicle is purchased for, price, might have been at the time, but the bottom dynamics of the water bank here, we have maybe cost numbers. I think it's a good decision and a good choice.
I agree. I think with just the earthquakes we had recently, when you called me and you were out in the field driving around, they did cross my mind. How are you getting up and looking at a tank? There's no way you could go. When I went on the tour of the facility, they took me out to the treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant. I'm like, there's no way a car could get out to where it was. I was in one of the trucks, and I was like, and it was even sketchy in that to get through some of the right after the rains and the mud. there's no way that car can handle it. We'd probably spend more money repairing it after you go out and visit than anything else, so I understand.
All right, any further discussion on this?
I would say there was some surprise we saw that car show up here. I was surprised.
The car you're speaking of?
Yeah. It was a blue Camry.
Purple.
Purple. That's with the wrap. That's with the wrap on it.
Is the new vehicle that you're talking about, is that gonna be logoed and stuff, or is that just, how's that gonna be?
Probably not. It wasn't before. I don't know if you'll do it now or not.
Is it gonna, what color is it gonna be?
White.
Okay.
You put spinners on it?
Okay, do you have a motion to approve MB3?
A second.
Okay, motion made by Vice President Webb, second by Director Washington. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. MB4, approve the demand validation analyst prepared by Kennedy James, presenter Steve Perez.
Your board had requested that a defensible demand study be conducted, and Kennedy Jenks had conducted that study on our behalf, and the numbers that they came up with are presented in your staff reports or your support information in your packet. What I'll do is I'll turn to Brock because he's intimately aware of the numbers and how they put it together, and along with the history of how they went about trying to put the structure together. This basically is a number that I don't believe that anybody on this board nor myself likes. However, it is a number that we believe that we can defend in court should we be challenged. So, Brock.
At the end of 2015, when the adjudication lawsuit settled, and since that time, we needed to charge developers for the water necessary, the water the district would have to acquire that was necessary to serve future developments, so our existing customers weren't penalized for those new developments. A previous demand study was conducted and approved by the prior board on August 7, 2018, but staff felt that there was enough necessary documentation to defend that, so we reached out to Kennedy Jenks as part of our water and sewer master plans they were developing to revisit these numbers and look at the average usage of the district, and develop an opinion of what they thought was necessary for future developments. In order to do that, we exported the actual water usage for residential homes from the fiscal year 2016-2017 and created an average of the usage for qualifying homes, which were homes that had 12 full months of usage. Those numbers are included in the demand study, and that equals 0.35 acre-feet per year per single-family residence. We also looked at the homes that weren't qualifying, the houses that had less than 12 months of usage, but because of the time that they weren't open throughout the year, it skewed the numbers, so we felt more comfortable with it.
Just making sure they're accurate numbers, and if that's the number that we have to live with, then that's the number we have to live with. But I don't want to have a policy where we're operating under artificial numbers.
I think that's prudent. All it would take is somebody to come in and file a charge. We'd have to defend it. And if we had to stand up there and say that we came up with an arbitrary number, they'd throw that right out, and we'd be out on our ear trying to hustle up a number we could justify. So before any of that happens, this is where we're at.
And is this document, I know we've talked about it before, Brock, but is this still a fluid document?
Absolutely. The staff report, under staff recommendations in the staff report, we would recommend that we revisit this every year to confirm the accuracy of those numbers and revise as necessary.
Okay, very good.
Because the demand can go up. We get rain and they think, oh, we're not in a drought anymore, I can
it could fluctuate. I would also like to point out that if you look at the demand validation memo from Kennedy James, the acre foot demand is 0.35 acre feet per year, and it mentions a 20% increase, and the number listed is 0.43. That doesn't equal, as those numbers, that does not equal 20%, but that's because some decimal places were left out, but the correct math is 0.43 with the 20% increase.
The other thing I might add to, in the consideration of putting the numbers together, the law that required our reduction to 20%, what was that?
SB 7X7, which was a 20% reduction in water use by 2020. So our pre-conservation numbers were approximately 40% higher than this number, or we've achieved a 42% reduction since pre-conservation measures. So we're required by that Senate bill to maintain 20% conservation, which puts us very close to these numbers. If we go over that number, then the district is in trouble, and we feel comfortable with these numbers because of that.
And it goes back to Director Stewart's comments in regard to if we get a rain, even though we have the 20% built in, and we're required by law to maintain a 20% reduction, doesn't mean that the people in the community will abide by that. Now, we have to do what we have to do in order to obtain that 20% reduction. However, how long will it take us to get the entire community to stop watering? Do we have to find people? What do we have to do? And how long will it take? So I think your question, President Wood, is valid also. Is it a fluid document? Absolutely. And I think that we keep a good eye on the level of water that's going out, and the demand, and the averages and everything else, so that if we see things creeping, we make adjustments as soon as we can.
Our district averages are calculated and reported monthly as part of our monthly water reports to the State Water Resources Control Board.
And you kind of put it in layman's terms for public consumption. Years ago, back in the 90s, early 2000s and stuff like that, most agencies based their water usage as an acre foot per family. And now that you can see that we're averaging 0.43 acre feet per family, it shows you the remarkable job that the people in this community have done to conserve water. That if you've gone down from an industry standard of using an acre feet of water per family years ago, where you're averaging less than half an acre foot per family now, that means that people are really watching how they use their water and being very conservative with it. And the community should be committed to that.
Right, they should be correct. I have two questions for you. First of all, as far as us with our water acquisition, should we still keep our water acquisition looking for water? How are we going to match this up? Because it says we're needing less. Are we still going to look for water? How does this impact the water bank and whatnot? How does all that correlate together?
That doesn't impact our quest for the stored water and everything else. No, we'll continue that. Because this demand figure could fluctuate at any time, so we're still on board on moving full steam ahead at acquiring that type of water.
You know, perhaps now that we have the agency, maybe let's get the word out to the community about, but this is not us doing this is them doing that. Maybe give them a compliment for the efforts towards the whole conservation effort. I mean, the bad part about conservation, you don't generate the revenue. The good part about it, it's a bigger cost, so that's a bit of it all working for us. So maybe we could let them know how it all plays into that. And then other things, if you look at, we're talking about the safety, look at all the efficiencies, the appliances we have now. I mean, we did a big campaign about water efficiency, leak detection and all of that. So maybe it's all kind of coming together full circle.
I think it's something to be pointed out and something to be heralded. I don't know if the agency has placed that out in the media at all. And that is, we're required to do a 20% reduction. And if you remember what Brock said, we're at a 42% reduction. the community is going above and beyond in the savings and conservation in the district. And I might add this one little note. Whenever the government, whenever the legislature decides to require us to reduce the amount of water we sell, that is a direct impact on the revenues that we plan to utilize to run this agency. So a 20% reduction in water means a 20% reduction in water sales. Now we're at 42. We have reduced the budget revenues coming in 42%.
That's not accurate, but you get the point. There's not a direct correlation of water usage and revenue. It's usually about a third.
Okay.
So if you have a 42% reduction in water use, you probably have about an 18% reduction in revenue.
Okay,
Still lots of
so,
money though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
and so if you're gonna lose that type of revenue, a lot of times when this occurs and we come back to the board and we're looking for revenue, I think it's, and I say it so the board continues to remember, as well as the public, we're being impacted by various regulatory issues, not to mention other regulatory issues that are done by the state legislature, and we have to comply with. So those impacts are things that generally we cannot anticipate on a regular basis, but we should in our reserves.
Great. Okay, any further discussion from the board on this? Okay, do I have a motion to approve MB4?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Director Glenn, seconded by Director Stewart. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, new business 5, approve the proposal from Carlson Architecture Company for the conceptual planning of the expansion of the district building in the amount of $3,900. Presenter Steve Perez.
Yes, Mr. President, we have experienced a disaster in the near area. We felt it in Roseman. We had neighboring water districts that were in severe need. We have a military base in the Indian Wells Valley that was virtually destroyed. And we have, as directors and management, discussed on several occasions our readiness for that. Part of that readiness is having to store supplies for eventual disaster, that we have sufficient supplies on hand to do that. So we need a place to store those. In addition, and more importantly, we have a requirement by law to maintain the records of the district. And currently we have records stored in several sea trains out here on the dirt, and more costly in other areas off-site. And these records are necessary for future issues that may come up, and we need a place for those. So in the conceptual design, there are three things that are imperative and included in this conceptual discussion, and that is storage for our emergency supplies, our records of the district, and for an emergency operations center in the event that we have an emergency and have to respond. If we have an emergency, our staff has to respond to the district so we can maintain the functionality of the water and wastewater collection system. And in doing so, we have to be on site until those things are taken care of. We're responsible for the public's health and safety, and without the staff responding here, and they may be here for extended periods of time, we need to facilitate that, and today we cannot. So Carlson has given us an estimate of $3,900 to do a conceptual drawing and planning for this function. When he originally drew this building, did the architecture on this building, they did it so it could be expanded. And hopefully he'll present that drawing for the engineering committee and various committees necessary, and then to the full board to take a look at and comment on.
Steve, on the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, is that also going to double as a training center as well?
It will, yes. In fact, it's good that you brought that up because I left that part out. The training center is something also that our staff needs, and we all can use. It could double as a meeting room also in the event that this room is not available. It could meet the needs of small group to meet in. And from time to time, I know that the board has had meetings with several groups in the community, and that could serve as that also.
Well, I think that's a good idea. The emergency supplies is no burden, because I think everyone is looking for help up north in the Ridgecrest area. And the records are outside, with everything being mitigated now. I think having stuff closer is better, but the other part, the emergency centers, I think that pays off dividends when you look at the militaries here, the sheriffs here, the fire department. They lose those, this could be one of the main attitudes, some kind of operational support. So I think getting this in place to see where it could head is a good idea as we move forward. I just think that the other part, we have to make sure that when we get these things in place, that it gets utilized. We just want to have it set up to make sure the staff are taking advantage of the training part of it. We have training days where you know about individual responsibilities. So I think that's a good idea along the line here.
Any other comments? Okay, I'd like to get a motion to approve MB5.
I'll second
Okay, motion made by Director Stewart, second by Vice President Webb. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, MB6, approve paying off the Zion's bank note. Presenter Brad Rockaback.
Which director's gonna do that?
Look, you if you can afford it. And we've gotten it paid down pretty low, so I mean, it's only a couple $1,000,000.
There you go, Byron. It's on you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the board well knows, the district is in the trenches, deep in the trenches of working through the refinancing, the financing of the rehabilitation project, the wastewater treatment plant. We've been having weekly calls with the financial advisor. We met with legal counsel on this 2 weeks ago, and having provided them with the existing loan documents the district is currently under, we came across a couple of legal complexities that, while we could work around them, they recommended, because the amount due to Zion's at this point is so low, that we either refinance it in the new debt or simply pay it off with our existing cash, which is the recommendation for you this evening. Throughout the staff report, there were several items that we considered, but there are some legal ambiguities in the existing note document that would effectually leave the water fund responsible for the sewers portion of the note and the sewer fund responsible for the water's portion of the note if either one of them were to default. We're not in a position to have that conversation, but that's the way the legal document is written. Then the next step, not to get too complex into the details here, but if we were to do something and not pay this off, that loan agreement has certain language in it that would require us to use the same language in the new note thereby making the water fund responsible for sewer debt and vice versa, which we'd like to get away from and really kind of clean it up. And this is a really good opportunity to do that. It would allow the 2019 private placement documents to specify the net revenues of a specific function, which at this time we can't do, which would then eliminate any cross-collateralization between the water and wastewater funds, which could have a Prop 218 problem if we were to get into that place. It also provides a net present value cash flow savings of about $25,000. It's not a lot, but we're looking at every penny here. Like for property taxes, they require at the initiation of the loan to set aside some money in case we default on a payment or two, that they have a backup plan. That enables us to use the money that's in there now to pay down some of that before we have to go into our own cash to pay it off. Again, going back to that net present value, the use of that money today is better than that use of the money tomorrow. So it would really, and the last point then is assisting the wastewater in covering its debt coverage ratios. By eliminating one of our loans entirely, it increases what we call a coverage ratio of the net revenues that come in have to be at a certain threshold. Usually the industry standard is 1.25. So we have to have enough net revenues in the sewer fund, revenues minus expenses, whatever's left over has to be at least 1.25 the number of times it would make to cover that debt service payment on the new debt. $11-12 million is going to yield about a $750,000 a year annual debt service payment. So by removing the amount of debt that the district has in total, it will help increase those ratios, which will make us more in a more appealing sell to any private placement lender that's going to be looking at giving us that new $11 or $12 million loan. So it's staff recommendation this evening to use existing cash in both water and sewer funds to pay off their applicable portions of the Zion's note and eliminate that debt from the books entirely at this time.
For me, the key statement is that making it more attractive to potential lenders for our new 2019 debt to be issued and eliminating several legal complications that exist in our current loan document. You said that. And for those two reasons, I think it's something that we should clearly do.
Hey, Brock, thank you. You're very good at what you do.
That's Brock.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Other Brock.
The other Brock, with the other blue shirt on. You're very good at what you do, and I appreciate that. You do a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and saying to get rid of it, to get forward with it. That's pretty good. And thank you for that, because it doesn't impact the number, the little bitty number, the $25,000 there is a lot of money. I mean, the big picture, $25,000, it not be a lot, but when it is going like, thank you for doing the diligence on that too. Present this to us.
All right.
Brock.
Do I have any further discussion from the board? Any questions? Do you have a motion to approve MB6?
I have a motion to approve MB6 as presented.
Second.
Okay, Ben, motion is made by Vice President Webb, second by Director Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, director reports, comments, future agenda items. All right, then we'll move on to general counsel update. Oh, I'm sorry, Byron.
I attended several meetings. One was the Palmdale Water District's rate study meeting that they had. We're going to be doing a rate study soon. So I went there to see how they're planning to talk to the public about their rate study. They will actually be voting on it on October 28th in their meeting, the first time out. They had a workshop on August 28th. I went to the workshop on Tuesday, yesterday, in Buena Vista. They had an open house in between on September the 7th, and they had an excellent turnout for their open house because people didn't want to just come and sit and listen. They wanted to come in, see
see things, see the open house and explain it. At the workshop yesterday, there were 12 Palmdale Water District people there and the engineer who's doing the rate study, and I was the only one there. So they were all trying to talk to me about the Palmdale rate study. The one they had, the first community workshop they had on August the 28th, they said yesterday was better because they had nobody show up the first time. Palmdale's getting ready to raise the rates to all of the water users in Palmdale. And it's going to be from 2020 to 2024. Nobody showed up to ask any questions about anything. On October the 28th, when they approve the rate study, are there going to be people complaining? The rates are going up. And they're going to be complaining and say, why didn't you what? Why didn't you tell us? We didn't know anything about, and that's the way this community is too. Now, Palmdale is a lot bigger than Roseman. They had 2 rate studies, and the only person who showed up was me, and it doesn't affect me one bit. I don't know what it costs to put on that rate study, but like I said, there were 12 Palmdale Water District's employees there, and the engineer who's doing the rate study to answer questions. And they had all of these charts, and they were trying to show me things, and I wasn't interested in anything because it doesn't affect me. But we're going to be doing a rate study. We need to find out how to communicate to the community before we actually have to vote on it. And my take is the best way is an open house. To get them here to look at the sewer treatment plant, to maybe take them to a well, take them up to a tank and explain things instead of just sitting in here. But interesting. I also went to the ABAC meeting, and Ben was there with me, picked on me. They had a presentation by Aqua JPIA, who is their insurance agent. And she started off by saying, we're not an insurance company. We're not an insurance agency. And then all they said was insurance, 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 insurance. So kind of humorous for them to say they're not an insurance agency, and then all they talk about is the insurance they're going to be selling you. I would like for us sometime in the near future to, we don't have to have SDRMA or the JPA come here, but give us an overview of our liability, property, workers' comp, from the SDRMA and the JPA, and how much we're paying for that, so we understand that in relationship to the employees and the medical for the employees. John will appreciate this. ABAC has a major problem in their water bank, in the Western Water Bank, with weeds. They've been percolating water for almost 2 years straight. And the banks, there's 10 miles of banks that are just loaded with weeds, and they've got a major problem. And they're hiring a solar company who does weed abatement to come in for $24,000 to do weed abatement. We don't have to worry about that on ours because we haven't been putting water in it. But it was interesting, the problem of having water percolating into the ground results in weeds near and around. And then one other thing that ties into the addition that we're looking at in this on this building, as far as emergency response and training center, they talked about the Greater Antelope Valley Water Emergency Coalition, and we're not in it. And I don't know why we're not in the Greater Antelope Valley Water Emergency Coalition. And they're going to have their one-time event on October the 30th. But ABAC doesn't want to be in it because they're going to have to pay almost $4,000 to be in it. It was a socialization meeting at Ethiopia Center for dinner and that kind of thing. But anyway, we probably need to stick our nose in there somehow, but I don't know if we need to actually attend this
but we need to get on the mailing list for the Greater Antelope Valley Water. And I maybe I'll let Ben pick that up because he was listening to that too, too. And
Well, they do.
From what they were explaining is they were going to do pretty much, I don't know if it was to the public because the tickets are open. I didn't see a fee for the tickets. I went on because they didn't go into great detail. So while I was sitting there, I pulled my iPad out and I was looking it up, and you can request tickets to attend. So I don't know if it is, and there it's the same paragraph, which does not explain if they're explaining it to the public. District are all paying almost all paying $4,000, and then City of Lancaster and City of Palmdale are paying almost $2,000. Now, are that what they're hoping they're going to pay to be part of this, or is that guaranteed? They did not elaborate on that either. So
And they tabled it.
That's not what, the one you've been working on, that's different, right?
that is not our MOU.
No, so we've been working on a mutual aid agreement
And that's not-
between surrounding agencies, City of Lancaster, City of Palmdale, Palmdale Water District. We've also been working on the Kern County Multi-Jurisdiction Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is Kern County specific.
That's not the.
No.
That's why I was surprised. That's one of the reasons why I looked it up. In my other capacities, I've said on the
Hazard mitigation.
And it's an Antelope Valley mutual aid agreement that's being developed between different local agencies.
So I've said on that, and that's why I started looking it up. I even went to my boss today and I asked him, he says, I've never even heard of this. So.
But that all ties into our need for emergency training, facility to store emergency equipment.
And I believe Captain Barger is going to be there too. So that was one big thing they were talking about last night. They're supervisor. So.
Any other director reports? Comments? All right, general counsel update,
Nothing to update at this time.
general manager update? No update.
Just two things. The Water Master Board met today and gave direction to their staff to draw up a legal storage agreement and bring it back to the next meeting for our water project for at the wastewater plant. And also our AC pipeline project is going to go out to bid October 10th and will run till November 14th, and we'll have bid openings November 14th at 2 o'clock here at this office.
And Brad, do you have any updates?
Just an update on the audit. I got the first draft from the auditors this week. Looks good. Been reviewing it, working on it with the audit manager and a partner. We're expecting it to come back to the board for approval on the second meeting in October. I believe that's 10/23. So just be on the lookout for that. But other than that, good.
Great, thank you. Brock, do you have any updates?
Yes, I have two things. We've completed the percolation test out at the wastewater treatment plant. In preparation for the upcoming construction, we had to stop percolating water into our test basin. That water flowed from May 8th to September 15th, and we percolated a total of 76 acre feet in that 1 acre test basin, which the whole time our rates stayed favorable, what we hope to see, with a very slight ramp down at the end that we can assume was related to loss of head pressure from the pond going down lower and silt getting into the pond. So favorable results and favorable water quality results as well. That's what we were hoping for with this percolation test.
Are we still we're not having any mounting issues out there, or that's all resolved now?
They continue to test the lysimeters and the monitoring wells on a weekly basis. The lysimeters test the water quality in the Vados zone, so the area between the surface and the aquifer, and those they're testing for nitrates and TDS. And then they monitor the groundwater monitoring well next to the basin, and they sound that for the water level and keep track of that water level. But to date, there hasn't been any significant change in the water level.
So in your opinion, if you hadn't lost head pressure out there, that the percolation rates would have stayed constant?
Yeah, we've been pretty consistent with roughly 6 inches per day. At the very end there, it went to 5, and then as the pond got lower, that reduced. And we spoke to Kennedy Jinks about that, and they said most likely that's from the loss of head pressure. When you change from 7 feet of water to 2 feet of water, you lose a couple pounds of pressure, which is going to slow down the percolation.
It seems to me like it's very good news for the percolation out there.
Absolutely. And one other information item for the board, some of you are already aware, our gap vax truck was pulled out of service last week because it needed repairs. So we had to rent another hydro excavator truck to cover us during this time. Obviously, renting a piece of equipment like that is expensive, and you will see the bill eventually, so I wanted the board to be aware of that.
Did
But
that repair get completed?
the repair was completed this afternoon, and the rental truck is being returned first thing tomorrow morning.
How many total days?
It'll be 10 days total.
10 days total. All right, very good. Thank you, Brock. Any other questions? Okay, Lizette, do you have any updates?
Just want to remind everybody we have bulky waste on October 5th from 8 to 12. So please spread the word. We have activated our Facebook page and we're getting positive responses.
And with that,
The community was aware that if they had problems, they were seniors and had problems, that we could come and pick up stuff from them.
Yes, and actually we received a lot of calls asking when, what kind of items we can pick up for them.
all right. With that, can we get a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Director Stewart, second by Vice President Webb. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:20.